Mother-in-law and pregnant sister-in-law showed up at my house with a moving truck while I was at a wedding, assuming they could just move in, because my husband said he would talk to me about it. Hi, guys, I've been going crazy over my in-laws' behavior for the last few days and really need to vent somewhere. A few days ago, my mother-in-law, Helen, 55F, and my pregnant sister-in-law, Tiffany, 25F, casually dropped by my house and dropped a bombshell on me. I thought that they had just come over to visit and this would be one of the periodic visits that I have come to hate. But, no, Helen and Tiffany had been acting exceptionally nice to me and even complimented me on how good I looked that day. Since I knew that neither Helen nor Tiffany particularly liked me, I was really thrown off by their comments. You can only imagine my surprise when their impromptu visit turned into a session of them thanking me for my generosity. The two of them thanked me for taking my pregnant and destitute sister-in-law into my house. Now, let's be clear about one thing here. I never said anything like that. I had no idea what they were talking about. I did know that Tiffany and her husband are super broke because they had been evicted and were staying with my mother-in-law for the past month. I also knew that Tiffany was unhappy with the arrangement and had been desperate to move out. There had been some subtle comments about how I had a lot of space in my house because it was just me and my husband, Vince, 29M. But, never had I once said that it meant I would allow Tiffany to move in with us. For the record, I own the house that me and my husband live in. My parents had died and left it in my name. This happened way before I got married. So, I am the sole owner of the house, and it isn't marital property. I had no idea why Tiffany and Helen thought that I had given Tiffany permission to live with me when I didn't. When I asked them where they got this idea, they said that my husband had told them about it. I was too stunned and angry to argue with them. They had very confidently told me that Vince had assured them that I had no problem in letting Tiffany and her husband live with us until they could get back on their feet and make different arrangements for themselves. I was kind of in shock and simply didn't have it in me to start a fight with them in my house. After they left, I just waited for my husband to come home because I really needed to know what on earth he was thinking by allowing his mother and sister to stay in my house without taking permission from me. Vince came home, and I immediately asked him why he had told his family that he would allow Tiffany and her husband to stay with us. Vince looked extremely confused and asked me what I was talking about. I told them that Tiffany and Helen had dropped by to tell me that he had said it was okay for Tiffany to stay at my house. I angrily explained to him what was going on, and I was extremely mad at the time. My husband, however, didn't look guilty at all. If anything, he was first extremely confused, then stunned and alarmed. He told me that he had never told Tiffany that I was willing to house them. They were the ones who kept hinting to him that my house was big enough for Tiffany and her family. The duo had been harassing him for a while, so he had relented and told them that he would talk to me. My husband swore up and down that he never promised them anything and only said that he would talk to me and see what I had to say about it. Vince had asked me about letting them stay with us, but I had strictly said no. So, he dropped the idea immediately and went about his way. He thought that since he hadn't reached out to Tiffany and his mom, they would take the hint that our house wasn't an option. He was clearly wrong because Tiffany and Helen had only taken his silence as a confirmation. I was so mad at my husband that I initially refused to believe him. So, he had called up his mother and sister and put them on speaker so that I could hear the entire conversation. When Vince confronted his family, they sort of hemmed and hawed for a while before admitting that my husband never said for sure that I had given them permission to move in. Their defense was that it was all a big miscommunication. My husband told them that he would talk to me, and they thought that he was going to just inform me about Tiffany and her husband moving in. After a little back and forth, Vince explained to Helen and Tiffany that he didn't make any promises. Everyone just accepted that there had been a misunderstanding. You think things ended after that? No, otherwise I wouldn't be here. Even after being told loud and clear that we didn't want to take Tiffany in, Helen and Tiffany just refused to accept it. For some odd reason, they started to try and talk to us about the nursery they would set up in my house. I was beyond frustrated at this point and asked them what they thought the move-in was still happening. Tiffany and Helen then started to sound defensive and said that since they had already made plans to move, it would be cruel for me to deny them now. Tiffany even said that I should just go with the flow and let it happen because it would be rude to say no to her now. I was absolutely livid when they said these things. I sort of yelled at them and told them that there was no way Tiffany was staying with me, and they had no right to just ignore my wishes when it's my house they are planning to take over. There was a small argument, but I hung up because I had had enough of their nonsense. It's been a few days, but Helen and Tiffany haven't gotten the memo at all. They are now messaging and calling me nonstop while trying to convince me to let Tiffany move in with us. Both of them are calling me heartless, selfish, mean, and cruel, because I'm going back on my promise to take them in. I don't know how to get it through their head that I made no such promise to them, and they know it. I am pretty sure they have been harassing my husband as well, but he hasn't told me anything about it. I guess he is a little scared to bring up this topic because he knows he is messed up. He was already on thin ice long before this incident, so he won't be pushing his luck with me. Helen and Tiffany are kind of using this as an opportunity to insult me. They are saying that since I married Vince, they also have some right to use my house because they are his family. Also, they have been telling me some nonsense about how this little misunderstanding is God's way of telling me that I should take my poor pregnant sister-in-law into my house and do a good deed for once. Most of their texts and voicemails are filled with condescending comments, which are making me angrier. They have even gotten some other family members involved, who are calling me heartless for letting a pregnant woman fend for herself. Honestly speaking, I don't see why I should house and feed two adults when they are perfectly capable of earning money. They aren't homeless anyway. Helen is perfectly capable of housing her daughter and son-in-law. I mean, that's where they are staying anyway. Whatever financial mistakes Tiffany and her husband made are not my problem. But the family seems to think otherwise. I was okay dealing with just Helen and Tiffany. I am used to their stupid tantrums anyway. However, the backlash from the family has been messing with my head. I am so done with the situation and would really like to move on from this already. It's been like 5 days, but they are not stopping. I have half a mind to call everyone up and tell them to take Tiffany in if they feel so sorry for her. But, I know that they won't since they know how handful Tiffany can be. I can't even vent about this to my husband because it's his family I am dealing with. I had to vent somewhere, and writing all this down has been cathartic for me. I also think that I should ask you guys for some advice, in case you have any. It's highly unlikely that any of you have been in my situation, but I would really like some fresh perspective on this matter. Edit, I've been getting too many comments, so it is difficult for me to keep up right now. I am going to include a few more details in this edit for your benefit. I seem to have angered a lot of you because I didn't believe my husband straight away when he told me that he hadn't promised his family anything. I guess it's on me that I didn't include more background in my post. My husband always had a problem saying no to his family. He had been a huge mama's boy and did everything that his mom and sister told him to do. We have had several fights about him and his family stomping on my boundaries. I have been married to my husband for over 5 years now, and it took a lot of time and arguments to help him grow a spine. He still messes up from time to time by promising them things he shouldn't and by allowing them to walk all over us. He is getting better, but the past and all these missteps have made me not trust him at all. Also, there have been comments about how I should not treat family this way and should be helping out my poor sister-in-law when she is pregnant and vulnerable. Well, I don't see that I have to be the one to help her. Tiffany has never been nice to me, and we don't get along at all. That princess needs to be pampered 24/7 because she does nothing and whines when someone doesn't do what she wants. I know that if she moves in with us, I would have to look after her, clean after her, and probably look after her baby too once he arrives. I can say for sure that she won't be leaving the house anytime soon once we let her in. She will probably use her newborn baby as an excuse not to move out. I know her better than anyone here, so I know exactly what is going to happen if I allow her to move in. I would have probably given her some money if I saw that she was absolutely homeless, but she is not. Like I said, she already has a place to stay at her mother's house. It's not my problem that her current living situation is not good for her. Update 1. Wow, that's way too many responses than I had expected. Who knew that my little vent post would blow up like this? Just kidding, guys. Thank you for leaving so many replies on my post. I have been fighting a very lonely battle against my in-laws, so hearing all of your stories made my day. I really didn't know that so many people have faced similar problems like this in their lives. For years, I sometimes thought that I was the only unlucky woman who had the curse of getting such entitled in-laws. Turns out, I am not the only one. It's just that after my parents died, I had tried hard to be close to Vince's family since I didn't have any of my own anymore. But Tiffany and Helen always saw me as a threat. I did vent a lot in the post and the edit, but I didn't tell you guys all the details about how badly Helen and Tiffany had treated me. I could easily write a series of books on what they have done. To be very honest, they almost ruined my wedding and my desire to marry Vince. Of course, my husband had also been a problem. I know that I haven't talked about him in a good way in my post. It's just that we recently came out of a very dark place. I had already contacted lawyers and was about to get divorced. All because of his stupid family and his spineless behavior. But Vince made an effort to put himself into counseling to try and get better. It's been a pretty rocky ride since then. I have a lot of pent-up resentment, and Vince still has problems forcing boundaries with his family. So, when I knew that he had offered to talk to me about taking Tiffany in, I immediately saw red. Vince should have known that I would have never agreed to this, so even saying those words to his family had been wrong. He just couldn't handle the indirect pressure and cracked. This is exactly why I don't like him spending too much time with his family. It's bad enough that we live fairly close by, so they can and do drop by the house whenever they want. Speaking of living situations, some of you wanted to know why Tiffany wants to move into my house when she already has a place to stay. Well, Helen's house is too small for her. Helen only got 2 rooms in total. Tiffany would have to keep her baby in her room once he is born. She doesn't want that. She wants a separate nursery and playroom for her boy and a big backyard so that she can take him outside for fresh air. I have a 4-bedroom house, but 2 of the rooms are me and my husband's personal offices. I work from home, and my husband sort of has to bring our work home, so we absolutely need both the offices. Tiffany had plans to take over one of the offices to make her nursery. She went on and on about how many changes she would make to the room to turn it into the perfect nursery for her boy. I wasn't kidding when I said that she wasn't going to leave easily if I had let her in. I also suspect that she would have expected me and my husband to pay for her nursery project. Anyway, now you know why she had been adamant about moving in with me. She has often made snide comments about how I don't deserve to have such a big house and how it's unfair that the rest of them have to purchase their own houses while mine was handed down to me. It doesn't occur to her that I would rather have my parents back on earth than have a house. I know Tiffany is jealous and has brushed off her comments over the years. But, it looks like she now thinks she is entitled to say and do whatever she wants since I don't retaliate. But, you guys have been right in telling me that I have been a little harsh on my husband. I know he has messed up in the past, but he is trying to get better. He could have easily pushed me to take Tiffany in because that is something he would have definitely done before. But, he didn't do it now. Instead, he proved to me that he was actively trying not to let them control his life. I guess I do have to give him credit. I will sit down and have a little chat with my husband today, and I will apologize. As for the in-laws and their tantrums, I am just going to continue to ignore them. Update 2, who would have thought that I would come back here with an update? Some really wild things happened yesterday, so I thought maybe I should make an update here. I really thought that ignoring Helen and Tiffany would be the way to go. Turns out, I was wrong. Those 2 are really something else. Yesterday, I was supposed to be away at a coworker's wedding. I was gone in the morning and was having a very nice time at the wedding, but then something really strange happened. I got a notification on my phone from the Ring doorbell camera. Now, listen, my husband was busy with an important project that day and couldn't even make it to the wedding. I knew for a fact that he was at the office working his BT off to make the project a success. So, there was very little chance that he would be back home in the middle of the day. I also wasn't expecting anyone since everyone knew I was away at a wedding that day. I checked my cameras because all of these reasons above made me curious to know who had shown up at the house, and that too unannounced. You can only imagine what I felt when I saw Tiffany and Helen with a small moving truck and 2 men unloading boxes from it. As soon as I saw that video, I immediately informed the bride and groom of what was happening and rushed back home. Helen and Tiffany looked a little spooked when they saw me angrily stomp towards them. But, they quickly smiled and started acting like it was perfectly normal for them to bring their stuff to my house when they knew I wouldn't be home. My mother-in-law also managed to open my house in some way. Vince had given her a key before, but I had made him get it back from her. My theory is that she probably made another copy of my house keys. I had been extremely enraged when I walked up to them and demanded to know what was going on. Helen smiled and told me that they were moving Tiffany's stuff into my house as planned. Apparently, they had gone to Home Goods and IKEA the previous day to buy all the things that Tiffany wanted for her nursery and her new room. So, they decided to just bring them to my house along with Tiffany and her husband's clothes. I was absolutely speechless when I heard this. What followed this was a huge argument and screaming match among the 3 of us. I was yelling at them to take their stuff and leave before I called the cops. Helen and Tiffany were screaming at me that I was being unfair and heartless, and hurting the baby by stressing Tiffany out. A lot of things were said, and ultimately, I had to call the cops to get them off the property. After this happened, my phone was being bombarded by texts and calls from the extended family. Tiffany and Helen also changed their tune completely and started to call me some of the most vile names I had ever heard. Tiffany also had the audacity to say that if something happens to the baby, it will be my fault because I caused her stress and ruined her plans for the baby. I have been called a heartless monster and a baby hater among other things. It was a horrible day and I was going out of my mind due to the sheer harassment. Tiffany and Helen must have reached out to Vince as well because he knew about the situation before he came home. I had sort of expected him to be disappointed in me for calling the cops on his family, but he had surprised me completely. He apologized for his family's behavior and told me that he would deal with them. He started to make some calls, after which the number of people harassing me significantly decreased. The problem is that Tiffany and Helen are still leaving me nasty messages. They have been sending me all kinds of texts telling me that I am breaking the family apart and taking Vince away from them. I am still not sure what Vince has told them or if he has even talked to them. I haven't been feeling very well, so I am taking a break from dealing with this drama right now. I won't lie, but I am also shaken up by what happened the other day. I don't know what you guys will think, but I am pretty much done with Tiffany and Helen now. I really want to cut them out of my life. I don't know if Vince will agree, but this is what I want. As long as they stay in our lives, we will never be free from drama. The best course of action will be to just cut them off. It's sad that my husband has been trying so hard to make me trust him, but one word from them made me doubt him again. But, credit where it's due, my husband has really surprised me this time. He is going out of his way to make sure no one harasses me for what happened. He is the one who is correcting people's narratives while I'm lying back and relaxing. This is a new experience, and I am loving it. I don't know what things will be like in the near future, but for now, I am happy that at least I'm getting to see Vince stand up for me. Update 3. Hi, guys, I am sorry for being gone for a while. Life happened, and I sort of got a little distracted by a few things. I know that this final update has been due for a while. Frankly speaking, the problems with Helen and Tiffany had been going on for quite a while, and things only calmed down a few weeks ago. I couldn't come here and give you a half update, so I waited for everything to calm down a little. This update is going to be wild, so buckle up. This might be a long read, but it is the final update, so it's not that there will be another installment of this saga. So, after I successfully kicked Helen and Tiffany off my property, their life started to spiral badly. Initially, they had been super mad at me for kicking them out and thought that they could use this to pressure me into doing what they wanted. They had gotten a fairly bitter dose of reality when Vince had called them up and backed me up instead of them. What Vince said to them and the way he berated them was so shocking to those airheads that they couldn't believe what they were hearing. They started leaving me nasty messages about how I was stealing their son/brother from them and manipulating him against them. My husband had told me to block them for good and informed me that he was close to blocking them as well. He also individually called up every family member and told them the real story about what was going on. Turns out, Helen and Tiffany told them that I had agreed to let Tiffany move in, but maliciously said no in the end. Tiffany also sort of spread lies about how I am infertile and jealous of pregnancy, which was why I was being so cruel towards her. None of that is true, by the way. Tiffany is just a really vile woman. I feel bad for Vince's nephew, who will be stuck with such a bad mother. Anyway, my husband cleared the air with everyone and told them the truth. The ones who still sided with Helen and company were swiftly told to kick rocks or maybe take Tiffany in themselves since they had been so worried about her. No one agreed to that. Then, Vince did something really interesting. He called up Tiffany's husband, Saul, 26M, and told him what was going on. Now, I haven't talked about Saul much because he was pretty much absent in all this. He is a very hard worker and has been handling 2 jobs to improve their financial situation. He is actually a decent man, so I knew that he did not support Tiffany and Helen's madness. What I didn't know was how much in the dark Saul really had been. The poor man wasn't even getting enough sleep daily. He was barely home because he was too busy trying to recover from the financial mess that his wife had created. Yes, Tiffany had been the one who had maxed out 3 credit cards and had fallen behind on rent until they got kicked out. Tiffany does have a problem with money, so this wasn't unexpected. What was shocking was that she had learned nothing from it. After Vince told Saul everything, he was horrified by what he heard. Saul had then checked up his bank accounts again, only to see that Tiffany had spent almost every last dollar on her nursery purchases. Let's not forget the moving truck hire that was basically a waste of money on all fronts. Saul was absolutely livid when he found out the full extent of what Tiffany had done. They had a horrible argument after which Saul basically threw in the towel. He told Tiffany that he was done with her and would be getting a divorce from her. Tiffany and her mother, of course, started to blame me for ruining her marriage. These 2 women would do anything to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. They tried to verbally attack me for the divorce, but Vince did an excellent job of standing up for me. He had a big fight with his mom and sister and basically told them that he was done with them too. Vince later told me that months of therapy had finally given him a wake-up call. He has finally started to see how toxic and manipulative his mother and sister have been. Vince has been exceptionally spooked after I started looking for divorce lawyers and told him that I would leave him. Since then, he had genuinely tried his best to improve himself. He said that this incident with his mom and sister just reminded him again of what was at stake. He was also pretty mad at them for intentionally twisting his words so that they could blame him for their actions. We are both actually sure that there was no misunderstanding at all. Whatever Helen and Tiffany did was deliberate. Vince said that he just can't live with this toxicity anymore. He has realized that he needs to stand by the family he made with me. I think Saul was also able to show him what happens to spouses when they get walked all over. Speaking of which, Tiffany is still mad that she is going to be a single mother soon. Of course, Saul will take the child's responsibility, but he isn't going to take Tiffany's. She had intentionally quit her job without consulting Saul, so she has no right to get alimony. Soon, Tiffany would have to get off BT and work like a normal person. Helen is freaking out as well from what I heard. Apparently, she is starting to realize that her daughter will soon become her permanent problem. She has tried to reach out to Vince and say that she will do better towards us from now on. Well, I think it's a little too late for that, and so does Vince. Both of us have been ignoring those two for now since we have some better things to worry about. I found out that I am pregnant and already 3 months along. We actually didn't want kids, but now we are both excited for this child. I admit that my relationship with my husband is also in a good place since everything went down, so the timing couldn't have been more perfect. I can see that Vince is serious about making amends, so I am positive that we will have a good marriage from now on. But, still, we are going to continue working on ourselves and keep my in-laws as far as possible.